And these slides compare the somatic. Somatic only have one neuron reach the target. So from your vertebrae, usually the spinal cord, and it will go to your target, release acetylcholine, and the muscle have nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. Now let's look at the autonomic. Autonomic, we talk about the sympathetic, parasympathetic. Parasympathetic have a long preganglia, short postganglia, release acetylcholine and acetylcholine in the pre and post, but their receptors are different, nicotinic, muscarinic. Sympathetic, the main one is this one, the short preganglia, long postganglia. Preganglia release acetylcholine bind with nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, and the postganglia release norepinephrine and will bind with different kind of receptors. So we have 5 different receptors, depends on the target. We also talk about the modified sympathetic ganglia in your adrenal medulla. You're going to mainly release epinephrine. So in the neurotransmitter part, it's mainly norepinephrine. In the hormone part, neurohormone part, is mainly the epinephrine. And let's look at the spatial one. So previous slides talk about the big picture. When you get nervous, you also sweat. So the sweat is sympathetic. And in biology, is every time you have a rule, you start to find exceptions. So that's the exception. You found the sympathetic when you're nervous, you sweat, and the preganglia release acetylcholine bind with nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. But for the sweat gland, postganglia, they still release acetylcholine. They bind with muscarinic acetylcholine receptor. But this is sympathetic. This is not parasympathetic, because when you are nervous, you sweat, not when you are not nervous. This slide show you, okay, different. Even though the sympathetic release norepinephrine, it turns out you have different receptor, different norepinephrine receptor. So we have the alpha, we have a beta, and alpha we have the alpha 1, alpha 2, and beta have 3 beta, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3. So it depends on where the target is, they have different functions. Now let's look at the control center. Autonomic nervous system does not have one brain area dedicated to control the whole autonomic nervous system. It's more like if you like the spy movie. Okay, some people like James Bond, and you know their James Bond boss is MI6, right? And well, if you say I don't like James Bond, I like Ethan Hunt. Okay, Ethan Hunt, Mission Impossible. It's still a spy movie, and the boss is IMF, maybe IMF, yeah. And or you say, oh, I like the other spy movie, and every time they talk about CIA. And all this control center, they talk. So in those spy movie, you found even though it's James Bond movie, they talk about CIA, right? They all talk, and they make things work. That's like your autonomic nervous system. You don't have one brain area. You have several different nuclei. They all focus on different part of the autonomic control, but they all talk to each other. They control. And the most important thing is your body is healthy. And a lot of nuclei in the brainstem, so we talk about the brainstem control, a lot of original physiological important functions. And a lot of them in the brainstem, like the RCC, respiratory control center, is in the pons and medulla oblongata, so you have 2 areas. The CVCC, cardiovascular control center, is in the medulla oblongata, so the brainstem. And also hypothalamus. If I really have to pick one area, so say that's the biggest boss of the autonomic nervous system, I'm probably gonna put my money on the hypothalamus. It's like all the spy movie. If I really need to choose one, you're probably gonna choose CIA, right? And this is like this, because hypothalamus control all the endocrine system. You're gonna go to control the autonomic, the pituitary gland right here, anterior, posterior. We cover this in the nervous system, in the endocrine system. And also you have the osmolar sensor. It senses osmolarity. So in Unit 1, we learned osmolarity, and that control the water balance. So when you feel thirsty, the sensor is here. And they also release a hormone trigger hunger. Ghrelin, and leptin. Leptin is the hormone released by lipid. It control your hunger sensation, and it's all controlled by hypothalamus. And it can also talk to some nuclei in the brainstem. So and also your body temperature control is hypothalamus. So that's the biggest control center. But also you have a lot of nuclei. They can work independently and control a lot of important physiological function. And when they start to work, your body is not like one pathway control one thing. Your body always activate everything it can possibly help and fix the problem. And that's the strategy used in your body. We will cover more in the last chapter when we talk about integrative physiology. Say when you in hot weather you are dehydrated during camping. What happens is dehydration gonna trigger a lot of sensors, gonna trigger everything in camp. So you have the osmotic receptor in the hypothalamus. So when you're thirsty, this will be activated, and hypothalamus will talk to your autonomic nervous system. So it will cause the vasoconstriction, because when you lose water, your blood pressure will drop. So you need to constrict blood vasoconstriction to maintain your blood pressure, part of the homeostasis. It's gonna trigger a hormone release called vasopressin, also called ADH, antidiuretic hormone. And because ADH conserves water, so when you pee, your urine will be very, very concentrated, and that's when you're dehydrated. And also your behavior work. So it will also talk to the limbic system. Limbic system control emotion. So especially if you got dehydrated for 1 day, 2 days, you are very anxious, you're looking for water. And also from the visceral input, somatic input, in the hot day, your body feels thirsty, and also you look at the sun, the weather is very dry, and you will talk to the limbic system. You start to worry, maybe I could not find water. You are very anxious to find water. Behavior play a role. And some scientists believe that's why we need to have consciousness, because it's much easier to give you a consciousness and you will fix everything instead of create a lot of pathway, feedback loop to control this, control that. And eventually all of them work. If you can find a bottle of water, you drink it, you fix all the problem. So that's the strategy your body use. You're gonna activate every pathway and to try to fix this problem. And when you get sick, well, apparently it will affect more than one system. That's why people get sick have to take so many different kind of pills. Because that's how your body works. Different systems work together. And let's look at the neurotransmitter release. Autonomic nervous system they innervate smooth muscle. So still action potential. When the action potential reach the axon terminal, and when it reach the axon terminal, it will trigger the exocytosis. So still calcium flow in trigger the exocytosis, and this time they release norepinephrine. So norepinephrine will bind with the target cell's receptor, and they can be activatedly transport back, either packed reuse, or they have the enzyme to disintegrate. And when we compare them with the skeletal muscle, when we talk about the cardiovascular system, we'll start to talk about the skeletal muscle, because I use this muscle model to explain how the muscle fiber are able to contract. Skeletal systems, the muscle is very dedicated to quickly produce a big power. So you can run away from the bear. And they're pretty well organized compared with the previous slides, the autonomic nervous system. They don't need to quickly respond. Well, sometimes they do, right? Sympathetic. But if it's digestive, they don't. So the skeletal muscle, they have this is the motor neuron. And this area they call the motor end plate. Motor end plate is the cell membrane of the skeletal muscle. They have a lot of nicotinic acetylcholine receptor waiting there to be quickly pick up the acetylcholine if they release. And this area called the motor end plate. This motor end plate. This is the cell membrane. And when the signal from your motor neuron comes, you're gonna release acetylcholine. There's neurotransmitter release. So still calcium flow in trigger acetylcholine release. acetylcholine will bind with the receptor. And because they have so many nicotinic acetylcholine receptor waiting there, they can quickly cause the depolarization, they can cause the EPSP, and they can generate, they actually call that MPP, motor end plate potential, and be able to generate the action potential and go to the every muscle, so the whole muscle can contract. And these slides tell you the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor is a non-selective cation channel. So when they open, sodium can flow in, potassium can flow out. But sodium flow in is much faster than the potassium flow out, so the net result is still depolarization. So when they open the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, it ends up with depolarization. Okay, these slides tell you receptor. Let's look at the adrenergic receptor. So we have 5 different kinds of adrenergic receptor. In the alpha-1 is the one you found in the blood vessel. And when you're nervous, your blood pressure increases. That's due to the alpha-1. It will cause the vasoconstriction. And when you constrict the blood vessel, the heart needs to work harder to send the blood to the small blood vessel, so the blood pressure increases. Alpha-2, you find it in the GI sphincter, the digestive system. So apparently they will decrease the digestive function. That's when you are nervous. Let's look at the beta. So beta-1 is in the heart. When you are nervous, your heart rate increase, and that's due to the beta-1. Also in the heart muscle, cardiac muscle, it will cause the contractility, so your heart can squeeze more blood out. Beta-2 is in the bronchial, in the airway, and when you are nervous, you need to dilate the airway, so the beta-2 will go through the beta-2. And asthma attack, to treat this airway being blocked, so the treatment is actually, they mimic the sympathetic function, give them the beta-2 agonist, be able to dilate the airway. And beta-3 is in the pancreas, sorry, not pancreas, lipid. It will increase the lipolysis. The adipose cells, their function is store lipid. And when you are fighting the bear, you need those energy. So they're going to do the lipolysis, turn the lipid into glucose, so the muscle can use them. And application, actually a lot of medicals, they mimic sympathetic function, like the acetylcholine. Its function is parasympathetic, so it's going to decrease the heart rate. Excuse me. Like the atropine is the medicine, it inhibits acetylcholine's function. So if you like the movie The Rock, Sean Connery, it's an old movie. They are dealing with the neurotoxin, and Nicolas Cage, eventually he got infected, and he used atropine. He put this to his heart to save his life, because it inhibits parasympathetic function. Or if you like the movie, you can watch it. The Rock, Sean Connery, and Nicolas Cage. Let's look at epinephrine. Epinephrine, you have the beta-1, you're going to increase the heart rate. So you have an anti-hypertension medicine called beta blocker. It's actually need to call the beta-1 antagonist, but it's too long word, so you go to beta blocker. It's antagonist to beta-1, so it blocks the beta-1's function, and it will lower the blood pressure. And most of the targets, they have dual innervation, so they have the both sympathetic and parasympathetic, and they have the antagonistic effect, like one increase, the other gonna decrease. And some area they only have one, like the blood vessel. Blood vessel is only the alpha receptor, alpha-1 receptor only. And you say, well, how they are able to control the vasoconstriction and dilation? It's like when you drive, most of the time you can use your accelerator to drive. Like when you press more, you drive faster. You press less, you drive slower. And this is how they change the vasoconstriction. So the blood vessel only have the alpha-1 receptor. Okay, that's it.